Hi. What are you guys doing here? Talking about your book?
Yes, we are. The new book, Berkeley Noir.
Yay.
Hit the stores, hit the Globe on Tuesday, Cinco de Mayo Day. We're very happy. Oh, there's Shanti. Hello there. Hey, welcome. Well, Berkeley Noir is one of the latest collections from Akashic Noir series. We're the class of 2020. I think Alabama Noir came out the same week.
Wow.
Yeah, I have that over here. It's a fun collection. So the premise of the Noir series is that there are stories set in different neighborhoods around that particular city. And people always ask, why Berkeley? There's no crime in Berkeley. There's no darkness in Berkeley. And we beg to differ. So we have a lot of the contributors here today to join us to read or to share parts of their story, to tell us what neighborhood that they're writing in, and to give us a little teaser of their stories. And I think we're going to go by order of the collection, inside the collection. And that would be the first part. This book is in 3 sections. The first section is called From the People's Republic. And we present first one, Lexy Pindell, whose story is called Hill House.
Hey. So a quick summary of the piece. It's set in the Berkeley Hills, as the title might suggest. And it's about a grad student who's house sitting for a famous UC Berkeley professor. And she discovers that things are perhaps not exactly what they seem with her idol. And meanwhile, her past is also coming for her at the same time. So I can read, I guess, the first, little paragraph plus.
Great.
I arrive at the Hill House and pull out my phone to double check the address. A droplet of sweat clings to the tip of my nose, and I blow it off. It splashes on the screen, just missing the jagged crack across the front. It's the right place. Patrick Bloom's house is smaller than I'd expected, only 2 stories high. But when I peer through a gap in the massive wooden fence, I can tell that it's nice. One of those Berkeley homes with old bones, scaled all over in brown shingles. This whole street is stacked with unassuming multi-million-dollar houses. So, leave it there.
Nice, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Lucy Jane Bledsoe. Her story is called The Tangy Brine of Dark Night. It's set in Berkeley Marina. Hey, Lucy.
Hey, everyone. So great to see you all. I was so happy when Owen and Jerry let me know about this collection, and I immediately knew I wanted to write about the pier, especially in the bay, especially since the pier's been that fenced off for a few years now, and it just has this. There's so much legend about the pier anyway, and I've walked there for years. So my story is about a young woman who has spent the last X number of years of her life taking care of her grandma, kind of at the default of her own life. And her grandma at the beginning of the story has just died. And she and her grandma had a special connection to the pier and to the bay. And so right after, this is the first, I'll just read the first paragraph of what happens. Kaylee's grandma weighed only 90 pounds by now. And so carrying her out to the car wasn't too difficult. She cradled the old woman, one arm under her knees and the other under her shoulders, and gently placed her lying down along the bench of the back seat. She saw that she'd left her grandma's sneakers untied, so she made secure knots in the laces and then straightened the purple windbreaker, which had bunched up around her bony hips. Kaylee gently shut the door. Would the trunk be better? Just the thought sent prickling uneasiness down the backs of Kaylee's arms. She would not put her grandma in the trunk, period. Besides, she'd need to put the kayak in there. She pointed the remote at the garage door, afraid that it wouldn't open. Her grandma hadn't taken the car out in months, but it did. The old white Pontiac started too, and Kaylee backed into the street, carefully straightened the wheels, and put the automatic transmission in park.
Oh yeah, good stuff. Awesome, thank you, Lucy. We're looking forward to having everyone read their complete stories at some point too. They're all so juicy and so wonderful.
Thomas Birchfield, who wrote Lucky Day, centered at the Berkeley Public Library. Thomas.
Okay, well, this is a lucky day. set at the Berkeley Public Library, sort of revolving around an encounter between two long-lost brothers, one of whom is a new employee at the library. And he violates a very important rule and unleashes hell into his life and in the library. It opens like this. The rule was simple. No patrons were to be admitted to the library before it opened, no matter how hard they knocked on the big glass doors. The staff wouldn't even bother with eye contact. Patrons could knock till their knuckles broke and complain till their voices cracked, but they weren't getting in. Mason, a cautious man, had been working at the Berkeley Public Library as an aide for only 3 weeks, sneaking back into Berkeley after 4 years away following his mother's death and his family's turbulent dissolution, understood this immediately. He'd arrive at 9 a.m. that morning with the manager of the day, Slim, an enormous languid fellow with spiky yellow hair and a wart on his nose that turned red during heavy rains, such as has been whipping the Bay Area the last three days with frenzied enthusiasm. BART service was sputtering even more than usual, and ACT buses were detouring around flooded areas. Most everyone would be late, except for Mason, who, for his own reasons, left his closet-sized studio apartment near the Ashby Street BART extra early and took carefully planned detours.
Oh yes, good story. I love it. That's good.
Thank you.
I love it. They all pulled me right in. I love it. Hearing your voices are great. I just love it. Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah, I got the story from an anecdote told me by a fellow employee, a colleague of mine at the library, and it just sort of blew it up from there.
There's a film that came out a year ago called The Public. Emilio Estevez, I believe, created a film similar to, not so much similar, but they're watching the door, can't get in before we open. So I thought about your story, and it escalates from there. But
yeah,
that's serious stuff. We're going to shoot over to part of section 2. Mara Letham, she's not here, and Barry Gifford. They've all confirmed in some capacity. Barry wants to read a story to me over the phone and record it. He says, I don't Zoom, but anyway, he's going to contribute his story, which is a little gem, of course. So part 2 is called Directly from the Golden Gate, and we have Shanti Sakaran reading her story, Eat Your Pheasant, Drink Your Wine.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Eat Your Pheasant, Drink Your Wine is my story. The title was an anarchist chant sort of thing. So my story is about a friendship, really. It's a friendship between a rat and his human named Shayla. We start out on Telegraph Avenue with sort of the street kids of Telegraph, and we end up in the lush hills of Kensington, just on the border of Berkeley. And it's basically about Shayla getting to know this grad student who's Machiavellian and has real estate aspirations that are less than honorable. So I'll read just a little bit. This is a little bit in. It's the scene where Shayla first meets this grad student named Henry Wheeler. And it's told from the point of view of the rat, naturally. The man was well dressed in a thick turtleneck and denim jacket. He had the sort of strong jaw and square chin that humans are known for. I don't trust a strong jaw. I don't trust a square chin. From his belt, he unhooked a metallic mug. You want to know why I'm on the street? Yeah. Why are you out here? Stepdad. He nodded. I hear that a lot out here. Oh yeah? You talk to a lot of people out here? He picked at his front teeth. Who are you, really? Shayla asked. What do you mean? I mean, I've never seen you before, but you roll up today in your nice jeans and your jacket, looking all clean, and you talk like you know what it's like to be out here, but you don't look like you know what it's like. You look like you had a shower this morning. Fucking stepdads, was all he said. He reached up. She held out the wishbone. They both pulled. Shayla won.
Very good. That's great. Thank you very much. Let's see, we'll stick with part 2 and ask Nick Mamontes to share a little preview of his story. Every man and every woman is a star, and it's set in Ho Chi Minh Park.
That's right, or Willard Park if you're fancy. So
Hey, Nick.
because I am a genius, this is a sequel to an out-of-print novel that maybe 105 people have read. And in the first novel, our heroine is 18 years old, living on Long Island, and she is preoccupied by both Trotskyism and Crowleyite thelema, ritual magic. And as it turns out, neither are very good for solving crimes, so she ends up in prison. And a few years later, or a few decades later, she's out and moving to Berkeley, because that's where I live now. And I'm also an absolutely terrible reader, so I'm just going to read the first 3 sentences, because I really can't. I will ruin the Zoom by trying to read any further.
Oh, no.
So here we go. My stalkers come in 2 flavors, communists and occultists. The former, despite the millions dead at their feet, are gormless fetishists. The latter, though theurgy is nothing but applied dishonesty, they're the dangerous one.
Okay.
And it gets worse from there. And if you want a bit of the plot, techie assholes are assholes is basically the theme.
Bravo. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sticking with part 2, we're going to share a moment with Kim Nelson, and her story is called Still Life Reviving, and it's set in Ocean View. Kim?
Well, it starts on Telegraph near the campus, and and then it ends up at the marina, because I have that same strong feeling about the marina, and that it's closed now, but it wasn't closed when the story takes place. And it's based on a friend of mine who arrived in Berkeley and was actually sleeping on the campus until he got his first job. And also the movie Vagabond by Agnes Varda. Just this idea of people that, they aren't really street people, but they aren't really settled in that kind of rolling feeling. And there's a lot of Berkeley. I think that Berkeley can handle a lot of that energy. So
Yeah, I think it.
I should have been a scholar. That's what my folks thought. For the only child of 2 professors, it was obviously the path for me. I did seem to drift into university towns a lot. I understood how they operated. Always cheap food joints, cheap beer, places to hang out, places to wash up, plenty of books, bookstores, cafes. I no longer really looked like a student, but I looked exactly like those people who had graduated and never moved on. Why leave when everything that made life easy was all around you?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot going on there. Thank you very much, Kim. And let's see. Also in part 2, we have the stories by Jason S. Rittler. The story is called Shadow and Deep. And of course, we have Jim Nisbet. His story is called Boy Toy. We'll hear from him again at some point, I'm sure. We move to part 3, which is called Company Town. We have Susan Dunlap at the beginning, J.M. Corrett, who asked to be on the Zoom a little later than we scheduled, so he couldn't make it today, but he wanted to be. Summer Brenner, J.M. Corrett's story is called Wife Beater Tank Top. Michael David Lucas, his story is called Dear Fellow Graduates, and that's set in Indian Park. Summer Brenner, her story is called Identity Theft. It's set in North Berkeley.
Okay, so my story is called Identity Theft, and it's about a professor of psychology at UC Berkeley who wants to study a human specimen under duress, and he buys a young girl in Thailand, and I'll just read the very beginning. Although there is this epigraph I'll start with from George Bernard Shaw from Pygmalion, and it says, "What you are to do with me, what you are to do without me, I cannot imagine." The first thing he did was cut her hair. He cut as gently as possible, but when she screamed and jerked away, nearly causing him to stab her cheek, he gagged her, then tied her hands to the back of a chair and her feet to a table leg. When he finished, there was a pond of hair at his feet. He swept and vacuumed and saved a few strands in an envelope. The second thing, he burned her clothes, The embroidered blouses and shawls, the hand-loom pants and skirt, the head wraps, he had no choice. They were clothes that looked distinctive. They could easily be remembered. If she managed to get out, someone could identify her. People in Berkeley were curious about all things ethnic. So that's how it begins.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Wonderful. And we are very blessed to have Aya DeLeon here to read from her story, which follows, called Frederick Douglass Elementary, and it's set in West Berkeley Flats. So Aya, you're on.
All right. Can you all hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Great. Okay, yeah, so West Berkeley Flats, where I grew up, and I still live in the neighborhood, although not, of course, in the same house. And I just want to thank Jerry and Owen and also Doris for holding it down for this incredible, independent bookstores right now. So important. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be in the anthology. And I don't usually write short stories, but I was inspired and also pressured. I got a lot of emails like, come on, you can do it. And at the time, so I write heist fiction, and at the time I was, working on, I've been writing like a book a year, so I'm always writing a heist book. And I was registering my daughter for school, and even though I had lived in Berkeley for over 4 decades, it was hard to document the fact that I actually lived here. And I say that getting your kid into the Berkeley schools is like going through a CIA background check. It's just so intense. And so, also my kid may pop up. Shanti, I saw your kid pop up in the background. Mine might pop up. And so, because that was on my mind, that was the short story that came out. So the protagonist, Keisha, lives in Holloway, California, which is a fictional town that I invented, which is at the end of the BART line past Richmond. And I actually have a spy novel coming out that's set there, but I love fictional towns and I love being able to play with the Bay Area, but she's trying to get her kid into the Berkeley schools. So this is the first couple paragraphs of the story. Keisha waited until everyone else left the office. It was Friday night and nobody seemed to be working late. Still, she shoved her sweatshirt up against the bottom of the door in case any light could be seen. Only then did she turn on the fluorescent light in the windowless copy room. A few weeks before, she had swiped a contract on letterhead from a real estate agency. Earlier that day, she had borrowed a coworker's computer to write a fake lease for a rental apartment. She had copied the language off the internet, but was anxious about any spelling or grammatical errors, especially because she couldn't save a forged document on a company computer. She had sat at her data entry cubicle during lunch, reading the words over and over until they blurred, proofreading it to the best of her ability. That night in the copy room, she cut and pasted and made copies of copies until she had a reasonable looking forgery on fine linen paper. She squinted at it in the glaring fluorescent. It looked legit. It proved that she rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Berkeley.
Nice. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And to close the collection, we have luminary himself, Owen Hill, sharing his story. You paid me to say that. No. This story is called Righteous Kill, and it's set in the Gilman district. I also am honored to be able to share co-editorship with Owen, and it's a dream. We're like brothers now. And so, Owen Hill.
This is my story is called Righteous Kill, and it's a similar theme to Nick's story. Techies are just low-hanging fruit now. They are such villains. It's fun to write about them. I don't know if they weren't around, we'd have to think of some other villain, but they're just perfect. And this takes place in the Gilman district, which before it was called the Gilman district, it was just that place in West Oakland where there are junkyards. I'll read the first few lines. The Gilman district, newly named by realtors, was mostly industrial a few years ago. You'd go there for urban ore, or if you needed a broke-down couch to replace your more broke-down couch. There was a body shop and a good Mexican restaurant, perhaps too good because it brought in too many urban pioneers on the hunt for good, not much mantelas. From famous red mole to the Gilman district, there goes the neighborhood.
Very good. No, I think it's cool that we announced to the contributors and to Doris that we've just got word that Berkeley Noir will be published in hardcover.
Oh, hey.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a contract, I guess, last week or something. So it's already on iPage, available in hardcover. So I'm pretty excited. It's like $35, $36, which is too much the norm, but it's kind of exciting to see a hardcover. They don't do the hardcovers for any of the noir series that often, from what I understand. So
It's really exciting to have everybody here. I'm Doris from Moe's, if we haven't met before, and I just think it's sort of fun to meet you all and hear a little bit of your story. So thank you so much for joining us here. I know Zoom is a little bit awkward, but we did a nice recording of other conversations, so we're gonna, put this up on Facebook soon, I think. And thank you all for coming, and hopefully see you at the store when we get to open again soon. We still don't know when, but hopefully soon.
Well, thank you so much, Doris and Jerry and Owen. It's just great.
Yay,
The anthology is wonderful.
Oh,
you.
thanks. Have a great day, guys.
Okay.
Go.
See you guys soon.
All right, thank you,
Stay
Doris.
safe, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Thomas.
There's
Bye, Shanti.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Lucy.